Chanja will not tell you that now for cottage industries, they want to come and see where you're manufacturing and not in your house where you live. So they want you to have extra space. So if you live in a one-bedroom house and you're manufacturing from your kitchen, they will not allow that. So they want you to have a servant quarter or somewhere, a space that's out there, right? So how do they communicate this information for those people getting into cottage industry so that they know? And then how do they direct them and tell them, if you don't have space to do your small factory, there are spaces that KIE can offer. Or there are spaces that this can offer, okay? So I think that's how we're now getting to work with the SMEs. For KRA, how do they give tax holidays? Yeah? How do they decide who would qualify for those tax holidays? Of course, I saw my KRA counterparts in the morning, the Commissioner General, and we've been having discussions with them. But they've always asked us, how do we know who these SMEs are? And how do we stop some from, Kenyans, we are bright, eh? We can kill that, or either I can kill that business and form another one tomorrow if she hears this tax holiday. Yeah? She can form it and call it Waidera ×2, but it will be the same company so that she can enjoy those benefits. So how do we know which SMEs should be benefiting from this? I think if we intentionally walk through that journey where KEBS, KRA, all government agencies, KIE, all of us come together and say, this is the journey we are working with SMEs. These are the incentives, because they have incentives. You've had the loans for KIE at 10%. Where are you getting a loan today for 10%? Right? How do we come together and walk this journey with them? I think they'll be, for Waidera and the other SMEs, they'll find it much, much easier.
Please talk about the issue, because today we had a very interesting conversation in the CFTA. And, you're talking about the free trade area, and you're looking at, a whole block there that Anne here can, have an opportunity in. But then there are so many things that sort of present themselves as obstacles, from the rules of origin to, the cost of manufacturing for her and the taxes she has to pay and so on and so forth. How does the SME Advisory Unit then support SMEs in creating an environment where they can tap into the opportunities at the CFTA level? Because, for example, we're hearing here that Angola, Botswana, Sudan, all these countries need food. They need products. They're importing. So how does me making my peanut butter in my one bedroom get my peanut butter to Angola?
I think for that Ministry of Trade is Ambassador Weru and his team are closely looking into how it is that can be made possible. But as I've mentioned before, it's all about removing these restrictions, because they can never get to the gate, which is the export level, if they're suffering all these bottlenecks here, which cannot even, an SME cannot even get to the supermarket. How are they getting to Rwanda? First let's start with them getting to that level, whereby, they're able to get their trade, their stuff on the shelves or in Kenyan homes, and then now they can think of export. Because most of the times with SMEs, when we raise the issue about export, they say, "Iyo si yetu." Yeah. They say, "Yo ni ya wale wakubwa ama ni ya wale," then they'll name other nationalities who are trading in Kenya. Right? So first, let's make it comfortable for them to know, KEBS is my friend, KRA is my friend, KIE is my friend, Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Agriculture, all these people are my friend, they want to work with me. For those in agriculture, let them see that the trade, the taxes that they pay for certification, what do they call them? CES. Let the farmers see that, CES is something that can be negotiated to work for them. The smart counties are actually now starting to look at that. How do they stop strangling their farmers in order for them to get their foodstuffs to farm, to the food hubs, such as Gedhurai and the rest. Because before that, people were not even, farmers walikuwa nashindwa. And that's why when the tomato would land here, it would land at an exorbitant price, because they've given it to the cartel. Then they don't care how it will get from the farm to the fork. So they give it up to the cartel and they move away from the trade. So how do we support and remove all these barriers in the different sectors? And the barriers are there. If you talk to those ones in the textiles value chain, they'll talk about their barriers. All of them will talk about their barriers. So if you're going to collectively have incentives. Trust me, it has to be uniformed with all agencies committing, right? Because even if KRA commits, as much as people want to use KRA as the punch bag, KRA can commit, but that is not the only hindrance you have as an SME. You'll have other hindrances that you'll encounter. So if we have a unified effort, then I think that should be sorted. And then the trader now can talk about, I have my goods, if I'm in Moranga, I have my goods in Nairobi, and then they can think of the DRC. But definitely they cannot think of the DRC if they cannot even get it to the next county.
Okay, excellent. I'd like to now open it up to the floor for those who have questions. I don't know if we have, yeah, and I can see this one now.
Maybe I can add something to what my colleague has said.
Yeah.
I'm not speaking for the presidency, but one of the things that I've witnessed, they've been able to organize fora. I think with agricultural associations, they go, SMEs cut across ministries, so you find some in agriculture, some in a certain ministry, and then encourage those exporters to link up across the chain. That is something that has been happening. The other challenge is the counties. Like she alluded to, you find that an SME wants to manufacture. Say, why there are products, if I can use as an example. And they're manufacturing from Kisumu, but they want to access the market in Mombasa. Chances are they'll be asked to pay for sales in Kisumu first. Then for them to market, they have to pass through Kericho. They have to pay sales there. They have to pass through Nakuru. They have to pay sales there. Nairobi, of course. Then they have to Machakos, pay again. There's some bypass or some pathway through Makueni. They have to pay. Taita, Tafeta, and then massively now at the end, Mombasa. That's another very serious issue that the Ministry of Industry is now engaging with the Council of Governors. Those bottlenecks are real. In terms of us accessing these markets, the ministry, through the Ministry of Trade, the State Department for Trade, encourages and supports and facilitates access to these markets. As we speak, there's registration going on for SMEs wanting to go and showcase and penetrate the DRC market. And there's some facilitation that the government also does. As we speak also, the same is happening for the Dubai Expo that started in September, will end in February, and many, many other initiatives. Maybe the issue is to get this word out there. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. I think we'll start here.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Rajan Shah, the Vice Chair of Kenya Association of Manufacturers. My question is to our colleague from KEBS. As we are aware that there are many regulatory bodies which have actually come up over the last few years. Us for manufacturers, we are dealing with several such bodies. The challenge we have as manufacturers is that, especially I'm now talking more for food manufacturers here, that we understand KEBS to be the primary body which is in charge of standard development and public safety and consumer safety. And yet we begin to face similar issues coming through from other bodies, other regulators, public health, now even CAK. And it becomes a challenge now that the same issue is to be dealt with through regulatory overlap by more than one body. And it increases the cost of doing business. How are we going to address, or how is the government going to address this so that it just becomes a one-stop for us businesses to be dealing on such regulatory issues? Thank you.
So the overlap in roles with the regulatory authorities, increasing the cost of business, that's a real one.
Thank you. My name is Anthony Kirori, former chairman of the SME Caucus before it changed to SME Hub. Now, let me give you my situation. Unfortunately, I lost my brother on a rainy night, 27th August 2006. The traffic police said that, I'll never forget, shida kubwa Kenya, watu wengi wanaingia kwa ajali na makosa si yao. After the burial, I spoke to the police. They said it's because of poor visibility. I spoke to the road engineers, and they said we can only improve driving visibility at night using cat eyes or street lights. But they are not used because street lights are stolen. Cat eyes, we all drive on our roads. The imported cat eyes do not work. So I embarked on that. That was in the November 2006. I tried to make road studs. They were tested in 2018. And the ministry said all road studs in the country, imported, we are the only local manufacturers, and the local and the imported ones to be tested. Pass mark was 90% because they're using the British standards. After 1 year, we're the only ones who passed. We scored 96% after 400 days. Eventually, we were put in what is called the preferential procurement master role, meaning 334 products that are made in Kenya should not be imported. Unfortunately, as we speak now, as I was coming, I saw some road studs just outside here, TRM. They were not there last week. Those are imported ones. We do not get work. Why? And we are the only local manufacturers, and ours passed. The second thing, you spoke about the giving tax holidays. Allow me, Kenyans are very bright. So let me give you a suggestion. Why don't you give tax holidays to innovative Kenyans? If any Kenyan can come up with, to manufacture a product never ever made in Kenya before, that means introducing a new product in the country. Why don't you give them tax holidays? There are very many bright Kenyans. We'll catch up with China and many other countries. And then the last thing, about what you said, SMEs not, we make pencils also apart from the road studs. But when we go to the supermarkets, they tell us we cannot open an SKU for only one product. So when you've made 10 or 12 products, come to us. If they can't sell this one product that I'm making, how will I reach the 10 to 12? And that's why after a year or two, you find some people disappearing. We pray not to disappear. We've been fighting this from 2008 when we first passed. Our very first studs were tested in 2008. We passed. And we're still fighting up to now. Now in the preferential procurement master rule, we are the only ones making studs. And so from what we were made to understand, they should not be imported, but they're still being imported. I was just surprised as I was coming. I saw them outside there. So how do we help each other? Thanks.
I think let's first take those ones because they are really, really heavy ones. Noreen, is there one you want to attempt to answer? And then we can also go to
Fine.
to Kebs.
No, let Kebs begin because
Yes.
there was the vice chair here. He has a concern.
Right.
He's talking of food manufacturing concerns whereby there are many regulators. For instance, KEBS will come there and maybe there will be also public health, NEMA, what, and so on. Now, for me, if I have to put it on behalf of KEBS, number one, if it is a food manufacturing concern or point, number one, which we will check, and that is why I said at the beginning here is that somebody comes in the morning and tells me test this, and by evening I should carry home my permit. Why should it take long? It's because of the premises. Now, if it is licensed by, for instance, public health, actually KEBS has no business of trying to go also and try to look at it again. The only thing which KEBS may have to come up with is maybe a hazard plan or hazard analysis critical control point. How do you identify your critical control points? This is an area of risk. And how do you control or minimize the risk? Actually, I have no business with checking you again if you have been licensed. The same thing happens to NEMA. There was a time, I remember back in 2014-15, whereby KEBS attempted to do NEMA audit. And actually, it did not go through because we sat and said, actually, even if you are going to go to, and that was as a result of a lot of flow of effluents into maybe drainages or rivers around there, and yet we are certifying the products. And there were some factories in the river, for that matter. And there was somebody who was asking, how do you actually go? The same people, public will come and ask you, how do you certify this product? Can't you see the smoke? Can't you see the flow, the runoff? And you're still certifying the product. And that is when KEBS attempted to carry out an environmental audit. But are they the experts? Come to think of it. What you should actually enable is the regulator in charge of that, who is NEMA. And actually we stopped ourselves. And if you have a problem with the environment, there is corrective bargaining, and there is also, we cannot just close our eyes and go about it, but there is somebody we ask also. And that's why we recognize each other as regulators. Somebody talks of one-stop shop. Why don't we have a one-stop shop of everyone? And I'm glad my colleague here said talk to Biashara Center, where I have an officer at Biashara Centers in Karioko and also at Kariobangi. And they have to answer to me personally, for that matter, what has happened, and there are other people who are there for that matter. So it is not true that we try to replicate other organizations' work, for instance, public health. I would like to be put on a weighing scale, whether I have told you that this is licensed by public health and I don't recognize them. I have to carry out myself. But you see, we have to also to inspect the press. There is, but those are the checklist we have to do. And most so who is affected most right now is not even the food industry so much. Vice Chair. It is the water bottling business whom, and they are everywhere in your estate, everywhere on the roadside, you'll find somebody actually bottling water, that we have a very big problem at KEBS. I must also throw it, maybe your sisters has come to come up with that raw kind of guy called a water bottler, not the one who fills the bottle. The one who fills the bottle is a good guy. The one whom you are taking your 20 liter or 18.9 liter bottle to fill, and there are so many. And we understand with the scarcity of clean water amongst ourselves, there's a time that KEBS had tried to bring them down, but we found that our people are suffering actually. There is a time that KEBS said that you must automate. Automating a water bottling plant. You remember? You can see it's looking like what you find at Nairobi bottlers. Do you get? And actually people attempted that by going to China and coming with the small units of water bottling. What we wanted is to try to rein in on, I'm not saying water is bad, but to rein in on some hooligans, what I can call people who are just bottling anything and then telling you this is bottled or mineral water. And there's a difference between drinking water and mineral water, by the way. Okay, thank you. And maybe somebody else can say something?
Yeah, maybe Noreen would like to take the comments the gentleman raised about the roadsters, them being the only ones on the preferential procurement role, master role, and yet he's finding them everywhere else. And then also on the issue of incentives. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, especially for that pointer on how about giving tax holidays to innovative startups. But I think, in all fairness, we cannot lock up the rest, because the SME ecosystem is not just about those ones in manufacturing and value addition. Include them, yes. So, thank you. So I think now that we have clarity, we are looking at that, as I mentioned, how to have that tax holiday for SMEs. And we have the Kenya National Innovation Agency. I'm not sure if you're aware of them. You are, yeah? Okay, good. So they also have the benefits or the incentives that they do offer in order to encourage upcoming or existing innovative startups and businesses. So those ones are there. And for the tax, we'll definitely include the innovative ones. That one is for sure. So have no worry. About the production, that you're producing something locally and yet more people are importing. I think for that, it takes us back to, do you have an advocacy body as SMEs? You know, it's always good to be honest to ourselves. You're able to get much done when you have numbers. CAM is able to get much done because they have numbers. And now they're even representing a different sector. They've now brought in SME, the SME system. KEPSA are able to do the same, and they're even bringing in the SME. But for the SMEs, we always want to ask them, have you thought of having your own advocacy body? And whenever we ask them that, they say, okay, we are in discussions of the same. So we brought all of them together for a forum. The MSME think tank and, all the small networks, even the Digital Lenders Association. And we asked them, would you be willing to come together under one umbrella? They said, let's go think about it. We give them time. Till today, nothing. Yeah? So already your voice will always be represented by other associations, yet you have the power to represent yourselves. So I think until we get there, whenever we're trying to solve SME issues, we'll be solving them in small pockets. Yes? Because you're trying to kill this fire, then move and kill that fire, yet instead of just using a fire hose to kill the entire fire. So I think such issues, the ones you've raised, like for the importation and all that, those can only be tackled from a group perspective. So let's hope we get there soon. Thank you.
Does the answer sort of satisfy you? Mtaongea nyuma ya tent. Okay, you had a question? Is her mic on?
Okay. Hello. Mine is basically information about Kirdi. SMEs don't have to go and do their production from their houses. Kirdi has that facility where you come and you're trained on different technology from food, cosmetics, leather, textiles, engineering, and also we advocate for them to go and get the caps. Then they come and be incubated under Kirdi. So you don't have to get your caps from your houses because caps is not going to certify you from there. So you can come to Kirdi and be incubated and also trained on different technologies.
Thank you very much. Do we have another question from the floor?
Can I add something on that, what she has just said, please?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, actually, KEPS and Kildi, they have almost what I can call an MOU. KEPS, Kildi, there used to be Export Promotion Council, there will be Brad Kenya Board, now under KEPROBA. Yeah, right now as I'm talking, our team, which is actually under KEPROBA, going around the country, actually educating. The first line is to educate, and most of the SMEs. I've been with them in Isiolo, the northern Kenya, that is. Then we went to western Kenya, coast region, and so on, educating the SMEs. Under Keproba, they will organize workshops for the SMEs, and our team mainly made up of the Keproba team, KEPS, Kirdi, and so on, would train. And after the training, there is on-site training. Not the group training now, on-site. We identify and carry out an on-site training. Round 2. Round 3 is now certifications. And Kirudi, I'm happy for my colleague that she has actually illuminated that. We will offer the incubations. Incubation means that I think you sit there, they will take you through. Having taken you through the training, now you can carry out even bakery activities and so on. And KEBS we will certify at that site. And like KIE here said, eventually when you grow wings, you go to your house. Is it? You get out of your mother's house and go to your house. That is what the actual, it's a program called incubation, and it is very, very well being carried out, I would put it that. Now, apart from that, Keproba team, the team which is out there right now, would identify also those who can be taken across, like DRC. Somebody talked of DRC here. And actually, I know we had a program there to take up to New York at one time. I don't know, I'd have to talk some time, I can't tell. I cannot talk for Keproba whether it actually took an SME to the New York market for exhibition in a trade fair. Yes, they are there. Only that sometimes we don't have that information. Thank you.
Okay, Anne, you want to add?
Yes, I want to add to that. I think we talk a lot about the regulatory framework, which actually being the biggest challenge. And we talk about, yes, security can incubate, yes, KEBS can help, but I'm way past that level. I don't need Kirti. I have a manufacturing facility in Kikuyu with equipment actually financed by NCBA. So we are above that level. But what is killing us is still the regulatory framework. Not figuring out what we need to do, that we have figured out, but just the exorbitant cost of doing business and the ever-changing laws. And I don't fight KEBS, I don't fight KRA, because what they do is actually they're implementers. And I think the actually discussion is bigger because KEBS, KRA, is implementing a law. So it actually needs to be addressed at that level. Because KEBS, KRA has a mandate. This is what you need to do. And that's why I don't fight with them. I'll go to them, they'll tell me what I need to do, and I'll do everything I need to do, even though sometimes it's very close to killing my business. I'll give you an example. I told you we have 2 brands. One of the other brands I just took up this year, and one of the reasons I took it up, the hair brand, was the founder was actually going to let it go because of frustration by regulation. So I took it up. It's an amazing, amazing brand, and we grew together. So I think there's a bigger topic to be discussed here because I don't need to figure out what the KEBS needs. I can go to KEBS and they'll tell me what they need. I can go to KRA and they'll tell me what they need. Yes, is it a pain? But that I can figure out. But KRA cannot change the taxes that I need to pay or the hoops I need to jump sometimes to be able to pay that tax and how expensive it is. That is a law. Yes.
Absolutely.
So I think we need to also address that.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
so maybe, Dr. you might want to comment a bit about that and see in terms of supporting SMEs who are at the level where Waithera Beauty is, who don't need the very basic support or incubation, but now need an intervention at policy level. Is that something KI can support SMEs to come together? Because you have supported enough of them. Is that something KI can, can support? But I'd also come to you, Noreen, because you have the ear as the advisory unit on SMEs. These are some of the things that are advocacy points to create a better environment for SMEs to be able to be profitable.
Yes, thank you. I can see why you are smiling. But it is true. These are some of the challenges you're able to pick up and also escalate the same to the policy level. And you just mentioned but one of them, you know, the regulatory, because it's the making of the laws. So much so that when you talk about KEBS and others, they are implementers. So back again to what Doreen talked about, the power of associations, very important. And I'd also urge SMEs, apart from hooking to the services of the agencies within the ministry, the old government approach, one government approach that the presidency is coordinating, it really pays to utilize the facilities and services of organizations such as the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. They have an SME section now, which is vibrant. They have women in manufacturing. They have a voice. So they're able to also take some of these issues forward from a manufacturing industry point of view. So we really have to attack this issue from all aspects, but we've taken note, and I'm sure certainly Noreen has also taken note of that. But it is true. From your level, you've grown from a micro, you've graduated to small, hopefully you'll go to medium, and they come with different challenges across the board. But the regulatory environment has changing. Noreen talked about the SME policy that has just come in. It addresses some of those contradictions. Implementation now will be happening, but it's an ongoing issue, and we'll pick up those issues as we move on. But it pays to have an organized way of somehow harnessing these common challenges so that we're able to address it at the right moment. Thank you. At the right place. Thank you.
Okay. Noreen, do you want to add that you will have a meeting with someone somewhere?
I think for me, I appreciate Waithera that she's grown to that level. And Waithera started by appreciating she's been able to grow by belonging in an association, which is CAM. So for SMEs, you need to have a collective voice, as my colleague Prof has mentioned. And through that collective voice is where you have bargaining power. When they introduced the TOT at 3%, SMEs came running to us complaining that that is very high. And most were saying, you want us to become formal? Now forget about it. We're going to remain informal. And, we asked them, so, because, it was even, for us, it was even an announcement, just like any other person we just heard about it. So we asked, why won't you be able to pay? And they gave us our reasons. We asked them, if we take you to KRA as a group, would you be able to go and speak for yourselves? And the Mitumba traders and all of them were able to say, including the importers at Gaborone, they were able to say, yes, tutaenda kuchitetea. And we had a round table with the KRA officials, and we were able to discuss, and thereafter, minutes were shared together with an advisory note through Treasury, which went back to Parliament. It came down to 1%. So yes, there is power in collective voices. And for the SME sector, whether you're housed within CAM or you're housed within another association, use that to your advantage because you're already within numbers. Try and get your plight, yeah? Even if it's noting them, the 3 issues that are really pressing you through your SME desk or through your SME office, have it go through Phyllis and the team, and it will come to the right offices. Because I know also Phyllis does a lot of walking through these doors and, forever on her phone just to, fight for her people. So yes, you have a voice. Don't suffer in silence. And as Prof has said, when you move from small to medium, she doesn't enda zikiongezeka. So you'd rather now just, start having people talking for you, you and your fellow SMEs. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think with that, now we'll bring this session to an end. I want to say thank you so much to Noreen Thiga, who's the head of program management and development at the SME Advisory Unit. Thank you so much for being here. I want to say thank you to our discussant, Dr. Parmain Olenarikai, who's the KIE Managing Director. Asante sana. And of course, Mr. Gashanja, who said we didn't invite him, but who is here from KEBS. Asante sana. And of course, to the really, really inspiring story by Anne about Waithera Beauty. It's so refreshing to hear a story like that, you have grown from where you are to where you are now. And I think that is, very empowering and very motivational for those who may be sitting here and wondering whether it is actually possible to have a journey like that. So we wish to see your products in New York and all over the CFTA. Asante sana. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for our presenters, please. That's been a very engaging discussion. And as they leave the stage, I now want to invite Rajan Shah, who is the Kenya Association of Manufacturers Vice Chair, to give closing remarks and way forward. Because after this conversation, these amazing things we have learned and listened to, what next? Karibu sana. Did that work? Yeah, okay, fine.
Good afternoon, everyone. I know it's been a very long day, and we really appreciate as CAM for all of you to participate here today and be part of the discussions during this the fourth manufacturing summit and expo. We have had, first of all, we would like to appreciate all the panelists who have been here since this afternoon and given their time and given their views and also on different aspects of manufacturing. I think as a result of that, we are also coming out with what some of these issues are and probably some way forward. So I'm just going to probably summarize to the best of my abilities based on the various panel discussions of what were discussed and the way forward. So the first discussion we had was on manufacturing and taxation, and some of the points which we have brought out is that there is a need to have a harmonized and a standardized legal framework that does not impede growth of the manufacturing sector. The government and Kenyans should look into procurement of local content to spur growth of local manufacturing sector. And we have already seen over 300 goods have been now listed by the government as products that should be locally sourced, but we hope that we can grow that list to a bigger number. Of course, it's also a challenge for manufacturers also to be able to locally manufacture more and more goods so that we can be able to supply both to government and also within our markets. Thirdly, the manufacturing sector needs ease of collection of taxes by government, while unfortunately the budgetary allocations to the sector is minimal. There is a need to increase this allocation. The predictability of policy needs to be looked into. Always, any business wants a stable and predictable environment, and this is something that as CAM, we are driving very hard and talking through with government to bring a more predictable and stable environment, whether it's the tax policies, whether it's any form of policies which impact manufacturers directly. Specifically, of late, we've had this excise duty of 10% on plastic packaging, which is unfair compared to imported products which don't pay any tax on plastic packaging. And this has had a negative impact on local manufacturers who pack using those plastic packaging. So this is an area which we are engaging with government to see how we can remove this anomaly and disadvantage to local manufacturers. There is a need to harmonize tax policy to ensure that one tax introduced does not compromise other sectors. There's a times when some taxes which are introduced lead to collateral damage, and as a result of that, for example, even including this plastic tax, which was meant for single-use plastic but ended up having collateral damage to many other users of those kind of packaging. There is a need for continued collaboration between government and CAM towards the development of a tax policy. I'm happy to say that we are working at the moment at CAM towards developing this tax policy towards a bigger industrial policy, and we hope with elections coming next year that we can be able to present this to all the political players of what, as CAM, we would wish the industrial policy to be to ensure that we can spur growth. The other session we had was on regional and international trade development, and here are some of the outcomes or way forwards on that. We need to explore value chains that are simple, transparent, and predictable in facilitation of trade, and more specifically in intermediate products. As we are growing our manufacturing industry, and we probably are, as we develop our manufacturing, we use more of intermediate products rather than primary products because we are yet not developed enough to be able to produce primary products. We need to make sure that across that value chain we are able to support people who are transforming intermediate products into finished products, and as a result are not disadvantaged. We need to undertake legal and regulatory reforms through policies needed to build institutional capacities in the public and private sector, including customs authorities, to ensure impartial, transparent, and predictable implementation of agreed rules of origin. Rules of origin is a real headache, and it's something that we need to fix so that we ensure that our goods which are manufactured here are not hampered in any export markets. We need to adopt and leverage new and emerging digital technologies with continental connectivity. As Kenya, we are already at a very advanced stage in terms of our networks, our fiber optic networks, but we need to harness that and use those technologies to better improve our own capabilities. And finally, on that panel, there was also a discussion to strengthen the frameworks for trade-specific factors, including customs cooperation, transit, trade facilitation, and trade remedies, as well as non-tariff barriers, including technical barriers to trade and sanitary and phytosanitary measures. I think towards that end, we have had a lot of fruitful discussions with our East African partners, both in Tanzania, where we recently had a delegation from CAM which went and visited Tanzania, and subsequent to that, we have had some very positive interactions to remove some of these trade barriers. Likewise, we are also doing similarly with Uganda to ensure that we remove some of those trade barriers and remove the friction of doing business amongst as a trading bloc. And that is absolutely necessary as we are looking towards the Africa free trade. If we are not able to solve with our own neighbors, it will become difficult then otherwise to trade even in a wider market. The third panel was the discussion on the challenges of the COVID pandemic and upcoming general elections and the widened fiscal deficit. From that panel, some of the way forwards or deliberations we had, the need for continued vaccination efforts to enhance business environment stability and confidence. I think whilst we are encouraged with the government's initiative on that, I think we have a long way to go to ensure that our population here is fully vaccinated so that we can return to a more stronger level of normalcy. There's a need for government to be cautious and sensitive to safeguard the stability of supply chains. COVID has also taught us how supply chains are being disrupted. And of course, there's all continued conversation going on towards ensuring that we are able to kind of make more resilient supply chains, more localized supply chains as well, to be able to kind of protect ourselves against some of the disruptions we have seen globally in terms of what we have seen in terms of freight. The cost of freight has gone through the roof, and it's making our cost of products very expensive here. There is also the need to diversify and invest into local supply chains, as I mentioned, of raw materials. And the government needs to build capacity to grow the sector and take advantage of opportunities like AGOA. So those were the deliberations. And finally, from this last panel and from whatever we have heard, there's been a lot of good deliberations going on. We're happy to say that the SME sector is something as CAM, we are taking it very seriously. And through the SME Hub, Women in Manufacturing, and other forums, we are cognizant of the fact that SMEs have a very important role to play in terms of growing our economy, and we definitely, as CAM, are supporting because they are our members as well. And we include various platforms at CAM. In addition to that, we have also heard that how various government organizations, the Kenya Industrial Estate, CABS, it's interesting, it's good to hear about the Biashara initiative, where it's a one-stop place where SMEs can come and actually get a one-stop place from where they can actually be facilitated to do the business. And I think this is a great initiative, and we definitely have to support that. And not only for SMEs, I think this should be probably the way forward for any size of business, that the easier we can make the ease of doing business for any size of business, it's going to attract more investment here, and it's also going to attract more of local manufacturers growing their businesses. So I think good deliberations will take home from also what some of the questions and concerns which have been raised today. And of course, we're going to continuously advocate and with government positively to ensure that we drive manufacturing to where we want to be at 15% of GDP, and probably even more. Thank you, everyone, and I hope you all had a great day. And please do, I encourage all of you to bring and spread the word about Changamka. We are here until Sunday, and we would like all of you to come with your families, tell your friends to come here and shop, and please support local manufacturers, because that's the only way we will be able to spread what the brands are on offer. And believe me, there are some really high quality brands that might confuse you to be some imported brands, but they're actually brands and products made in Kenya. And truly, we should be proud of that. Thank you very much, and God bless you. Thanks.